Looking for me?
He invited me into his trailer.
This was exciting for Jimmy, and I didn't want to be in his way.
That is so true. You should not get in the child's way because the child dictates what the parent should do. Do not get in the way of the child. Let the child be in another room and sleep with another adult in the bedroom. Do not get in the way of the child. Absolutely. You're such a good mother.
Who gets to meet the hero, the superhero? This is this little boy getting to do it twice now.
I ended up spending about 2 hours with him in his hotel suite. You can stay in the guest quarters with your parents or if you want, you can stay with me in my room. And I was like, I want to stay with Michael. I want to stay with Michael.
Michael.
Hello, Wade. Congratulations, little one. Today is your birthday. I don't celebrate birthdays, of course, but I thought I would take this moment to say congratulations.
Hello. Thank you for watching my channel. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I normally don't ask for that, but since you're so special, hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get into it. Subscribe. What up, iCkEdMeL on the check-in. I wanted to talk about Leaving Neverland. I watched the documentary last night. I only watched one episode so far. It's 2 hours long each. It's 2 episodes. You can only get it on HBO or Hulu, or if you have an alternative means to download it. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about, the two people that were telling their story was Wade Robeson and James Safechuck, and the mothers mostly talking to throughout the documentary. And just to give a little bit of backstory, so far I think Michael has had 6 accusers, and the last 2 being Wade Robeson and James Safechuck. Now, Wade Robeson, he actually was denying and defending Michael Jackson for 2 decades, and then one day he changed his mind and says he's going to tell his story. The thing that's interesting to note here, because I totally get what I'm hearing from people, is that they fall on the side of, why are you bringing this up now? This man is deceased. He can't defend himself. After somebody has passed, a lot of people find it kind of disrespectful. But what I found was quite interesting was that Wade Robeson and James Safechuck, they took this to court after a certain amount of time, but both of their cases got dismissed because it was too long after the fact, they said. So both their cases was dismissed. So I'm kind of taking this as like maybe this was their only way to tell their story. So in this documentary, like one of the first things I have to say that I noticed, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of the R. Kelly documentary, though I think this one went further in, more details. I mean, it was only 2 people, and it was really in-depth stories. And I have to say that their stories sound believable. And it was backed up with like pictures and video and notes, personal notes. Like, it was very, very detailed. And I have to say, my thoughts and the theme that kept running into my head throughout the whole documentary is how stupid these parents are. How these parents sold out their children, how the men that were in these kids' lives were very weak, and how the mothers overtook and did whatever they wanted. I also heard that in episode 2, it's about Wade Robeson's father. The guy actually killed himself, committed suicide. I've spoken about suicide in my videos before. I think suicide is a cowardly act. That's just my very biased opinion because I've been affected by it. It's very cowardly. But it's hard to also say that when things involve like mental health. It's like how it's hard to judge somebody too. I could just never see myself as a parent doing something like that and giving up on your child. And you also leave your child more susceptible. They're more likely to do it suicide when their parent has committed suicide, and even more likely to do it when their mother has committed suicide, like statistically. And with this guy's suicide, there wasn't too much information that I saw. Well, I didn't watch the second episode, but from what I heard was that he killed himself after the mother had left with the son to the States to be like with Michael Jackson. and like I guess the guy was lonely, or I don't know what else happened, or whatever. That's part of the story. I still haven't watched the second episode, and not to really try to pass too much judgment on somebody that killed themselves, but not only did the parents fail the children, and not only did this father fail his children while he was alive, but then he double failed them by killing himself and leaving these children, especially boys, to themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't do or help the children at all. But who knows what this man was going through? You know what I'm saying? It seems like a lot of times when it comes to men and women, or fathers and mothers, sometimes it's like the mothers have more privilege over the fathers, and they can just take your child and do whatever in some instances. To give some examples of like some of the craziness, right? Because like things happen to parents that it's out of your control. You could be the most protective, whatever. These parents were, honestly, to me, they didn't care. They were just loose with it. There was one story where, and I think this was Wade's family. They went to the Neverland Ranch. The whole family was there. They had a great time, and I guess they were supposed to go and like to a Grand Canyon trip. And like Michael supposedly talks to the kid, wants the kid to stay. So the kid goes and tells the parents, "Oh, I want to stay with Michael." I think that's how it happened. Anyway, the parents, they go, okay. They leave. I think it was the mother. I'm not sure if the father was there, the sister. They all leave and go to the Grand Canyon for a week and leave the child with Michael. Like, what parent in their right mind, right? You're going to leave your child with an adult that's not even in your family, and you're going to leave them for a week. The family claims they tried to call. He didn't answer. If you called and there was no answer, wouldn't you think, damn, I need to go back and check on this kid? There's just numerous examples and stories of where these parents are complete trash, is what I have to say. And I sometimes I really don't like to go in like that, but these parents literally failed their children. There was one story too, or they were explaining some of the layout of the Neverland Ranch, and like there's like the main house, the main area, and then there's like a guest area or whatever that's like across the way or something. And I'm like, how do these parents not think that something's kind of funny about this? You know what I'm saying? Like, across the way. And Michael's going to be with the child by himself, sleeping over days at a time, weeks at a time, whatever. Now, I have to say, like, when I was watching the documentary, it's not like they were completely, like, trashing him and all that stuff. They said he was a really nice guy. I guess he started the careers for these two men, or boys at the time. The documentary, like I said, was very detailed, very graphic. I was going to mention them, but it just got to the point where I was like, yo, I can't even mention this stuff on YouTube. Just, if you're really interested, go check out the documentary. As far as Michael Jackson, man, I'm not going to trash the guy. The guy's passed away. Like I said, the story is very believable. I've always been on the fence about this thing with the children. I'm always biased towards children. This definitely pushed me to believe more that I believe something did happen. It's too bad that we can't hear Michael's side of the story. And not like he would probably admit to this, but who knows, if things got to a certain place, maybe he would speak up and we could hear his side of the story, but we can only hear these people's side of the story. Michael is somebody that, from what I've heard from different various people, I've never been like a hardcore fan. His music is great. I've watched him here and there, but like I've never been like a fanatic or anything like that. But I've heard his childhood was taken from him. He never had a real childhood. That's why he liked kids so much. And also that I saw in Joe Rogan, and I've heard other places say that like they believe that like their parents, his parents were messing with his hormone levels. Like they took out his testosterone or whatever. Like the guy, that's how he had his voice, like that very like high pitched voice. And if that is the case, that could have definitely messed with Michael's head. Especially the rough childhood that he had, it seems like. And that's one of my big problems too, was when these parents, when they have the kids that want to transform themselves, become transgender, whatever. I think honestly it should be a crime to give a child at such a young age hormones that were going to change their testosterone or whatever. because what happens is your body is still developing, and when you do changes like that, it is literally like life altering. You know what I'm saying? Like versus when you're older, you can probably go back and switch it around. And when you're at such a young age, you just do so much damage, I think, and it really should be a crime. And I would say another thing to note here, as far as the hormones, estrogen, testosterone, there's been some studies, but it's very debatable as to whether hormones and hormone imbalance can actually change your sexuality. I believe that it can, and especially in a really young, developing boy. It can do a bunch of things physically, mentally, and even your perspective on sexuality. So I think this could have been a factor too. I would never excuse this stuff if this man did that, Michael. You know, I don't know how I feel about this, man. It's hard for me to, like, I did pass judgment. It seems very believable. I'm sure some inappropriate things happened. The people that are here alive for me to criticize, and I wouldn't criticize the children that were involved at the time. I can definitely criticize the parents, and you can even consider the parents maybe victims, but it's just, I can't consider the parents victims because they were really downright, like, negligent parents. You know, and like to the point where it was like knowingly. I mean, like if you watch the documentary, there's just so many instances like, oh, I went to the door, but the door was locked, and oh, they were alone in this room, but I don't know what happened, and I couldn't get to them, or oh, like, and I even heard like on Joe Rogan, they were saying like he had the floor lined out. So like when people would start walking to Michael's room, like they'd start like little like chimes or something, like bells would start slowly, like you would hear it in the room, so they kind of knew or whatever. And it seemed from like what the kids were saying, you know, the adults now, but they were children at the time, it seemed like there was a lot of grooming going on. It's really interesting, the kind of grooming that Michael would make them feel special and magical, and it was like, you know, the best thing ever. And anyway, I could go on and on and on about the documentary and the parents and how I feel about this, but I think I'll end it here. Comment below. Let me know how you feel about this. Have you seen the documentary? What are your thoughts? Is this wrong? Do you feel for the victims, for the parents? Seems like Michael had some sort of darkness in him, dark past, maybe things that were out of his control. You know, I don't excuse it. The man is deceased and passed. This does shed some light because, like I said, the video is just very, very detailed. It's just hard to ignore. I mean, it's a real documentary. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, very, like, it's just like, as people would say, receipts all over. You know what I'm saying? So let me know your thoughts. Man, I hope you have a great day. Take care of yourselves. And, yeah, peace, man. Very negligent parents. Like I said, things can happen to anybody that's out of your control. But when it's to this level, and you'll know what I mean when you watch this. When it's to this level, when you're constantly letting your child for weeks on end sleep at somebody else's house in their bed, and you find it acceptable and it's weird. And Michael Jackson himself is not your average person. You know, he's very eccentric. He's very he's kind of like a weird guy. He's very he's introverted, it seems like. Even though he goes on stage and there's all these performances, outside of that, he's seem like introverted, and, you know, I don't know, man. So there should already been kind of a couple of things in your head to kind of, like, you know, suspect, you know. Oh, and the other thing too I forgot to mention is, and this was one of the craziest things to me too, before I end the video, if you're still watching, one of the guys was telling how, like, after a while Michael Jackson had this thing where he would, like, start to rotate boys or something like that. So, like, after 1 year he would start to move to another boy, but he would let the other boy know that, hey, you know, there's going to be this new person kind of thing. And what the guy said was that after he started to get jealous of the other boy, like, it was real, like, relationships. And I have to say too, it wasn't like Michael was, like, forcing them and all this kind of stuff. It was, like, real relationship. Michael, if this is true, Michael took advantage, obviously, that they're young, and you know, young children are susceptible and you can easily manipulate them, and this is what love is and all this kind of stuff. And you know, you can tell these guys telling their stories, it's almost like not even from a place of hate. From what I see in the first episode, it's like they're telling their story, but it's like they felt like they were, like, in love at the time. And some of them explained that they were, like, brainwashed and all this kind of stuff. Very, I don't even know, man. Check it out for yourself. Let me know what you think. Watch it. And yeah, peace.
I see potential subscribers. Subscribe for more. This is the mother info war.